It started like any other late-night appearance. The lights, the laughter, the charm, but within minutes, everything unraveled. Timothée Chalamet, Hollywood's golden boy, walked onto Stephen Colbert's stage with that signature smile. But by the time the cameras cut to commercial, that smile was gone. According to audience members, the tension was thick. Something had clearly gone wrong. Moments later, Timothée was nowhere to be seen, and whispers started flying. Was he kicked off? Did he storm out? The internet exploded. Fan forums lit up like wildfire. Some blamed Colbert, accusing him of pushing too hard. Others pointed fingers at Timothée, calling his behavior entitled and volatile. But no one could agree because no one knew what really happened backstage. And while the official broadcast cut the interview short with no explanation, what wasn't shown spoke louder than what was. What followed was a digital firestorm. Within hours, hashtags trended. Colbert cancelled justice for Timothée. What did Colbert say? But this isn't the first time things have gone sideways on a late-night stage. Remember Joaquin Phoenix's silence on Letterman, Kanye's verbal clash with Jimmy Kimmel, or that time Madonna walked off Fallon. Late night is no stranger to drama, but this felt different. This wasn't a character breakdown or a publicity stunt. This felt real, raw, personal. Now. Fans and insiders alike are asking the same question. What could have pushed TimotheeChalamet.com, calculated, beloved, to the breaking point on national television? Because whatever happened that night, it may have just changed the course of his career forever. Before the tension, before the fallout, there was the setup, a seemingly ordinary night in New York City, where millions were tuned in, expecting nothing more than a charming interview between a late-night titan and one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. Timothée Chalamet was riding a wave of momentum, fresh off the global success of Dune Part 2, and with Oscar buzz surrounding his next indie film. He was in the perfect position, adored by critics, chased by directors, worshipped by fans, and with every red carpet, every carefully crafted press appearance, Timothée was shaping something more than just a career. He was curating a myth. Stephen Colbert, on the other hand, wasn't just any host. He was the thinking man's comedian, razor-sharp, unapologetically political, the kind of host who could shift from satire to sincerity in seconds. His interviews could launch viral moments or end careers. This wasn't their first encounter. In fact, Timothée had appeared on Colbert's show twice before. Both times, the vibe was light, cheeky anecdotes, viral laughter, crowd-pleasing charm. There was mutual respect. But this time, something was different. The night was part of a high-stakes press tour. Timothée was there to promote his latest role, a daring, controversial film where he plays a whistleblower entangled in government secrets. The film had already stirred headlines. Some called it brave, others called it reckless. Colbert opened the segment with the usual flair, warm applause, a few playful jabs. Timothée responded in kind, with that well-known half-smile, and soft-spoken cool. But as the segment progressed, Colbert's questions grew more pointed, less about the movie, more about the politics behind it. There was a shift in the air, subtle at first, a pause that lingered, a laugh that felt forced. Timothée adjusted in his chair. His fingers twitched. He looked off stage, just for a second, and that's when people started to notice. To the audience at home, it still looked polished, controlled, but those in the room say otherwise. The room had changed. The tension was rising. What was supposed to be a puff-piece interview was turning into something else. Something sharper, something deeper. It wasn't the first time Colbert had done this. He's known for turning the tide mid-interview, slowly peeling back the layers of a guest until something raw breaks through. Some thrive under the spotlight, others fold, and Timothée, for all his on-screen power, is notoriously private. In person, the more Colbert pushed subtly, cleverly, the more guarded he became. Whispers among staff say there was a disagreement just before going live. Something about off-limit topics, something about a clause, a warning. But if that's true, Colbert ignored it, because as the cameras rolled, the questions didn't stop. And Timothée, the actor who never loses his cool, began to look cornered. This was no longer a celebrity cameo. This was the beginning of a public unraveling, one that no one, not even the producers, saw coming. And while the audience still clapped, still laughed, still followed the cues, behind the curtains, something was breaking apart. Quietly, quickly, irreversibly. It happened just 12 minutes into the segment. Colbert leaned forward, hands folded, eyes narrowed with that trademark blend of mischief and precision. He smiled, but there was a blade behind it. Then came the question. Do you think actors should take political stances if they're not fully educated on the issue? A seemingly harmless query, a classic Colbert trap. disguised as curiosity, loaded with intent. Timothée froze for half a beat. Not long, but long enough. The audience chuckled, sensing tension but unsure if it was real. Colbert kept smiling, waiting, pushing. Timothée inhaled slowly, glanced down at his hands, then looked back at Colbert with a sharp, steady gaze. I think it's dangerous to assume artists don't understand the world just because they don't talk like politicians. The crowd clapped politely, cautiously, but Colbert didn't let go. Fair. But isn't there a difference between art as expression and activism as performance? A pause. And then, something shifted. Timothée leaned back in his chair. The smile faded completely. His jaw tensed. This wasn't the script. This wasn't the promo tour. What are you trying to say? Stephen Colbert raised his eyebrows. A picture of innocence. Just asking questions. Isn't that the job? Another laugh from the audience, nervous, offbeat. For a second, there was silence. Then Timothée answered quietly, intensely. I came here to talk about the film. If you want a debate, maybe invite someone running for office. A beat. That line wasn't in the pre-interview notes. It wasn't safe. It wasn't neutral. And it wasn't funny. Colbert's smile faltered. The crowd picked up on it. So did the cameras. From there, the temperature dropped. The producers could be seen motioning from the sidelines. A stage manager whispered something to a crew member. The rhythm of the show, the carefully orchestrated timing, was slipping out of control. Colbert, sensing the energy shift, tried to recover, of course. Let's talk about the movie. You play a man hunted by the government after leaking classified information. What drew you to that role? But it was too late. The damage had been done. Timothée's answers were clipped. His eyes no longer smiled. He kept glancing backstage. His voice, usually calm and measured, now carried an edge. Behind the cameras, the director started signaling for a commercial break earlier than planned. Something wasn't right. Audience members later said you could feel it. The air got thick. The laughter felt staged. Some even said it felt like watching a relationship fall apart in real time. Then came the final blow. Colbert, in an attempt to lighten the mood, made a joke. Maybe your character had the right idea. Sometimes it's better to disappear. Timothée didn't laugh. Instead, he took off his microphone. Live. On camera. The moment was surreal. The crowd gasped. The camera cut away too late. He stood up, quietly, no outburst, no shouting, just a silent storm walking off stage. Colbert, visibly thrown, turned to the camera with a half laugh. We'll be right back. The screen faded to black. And just like that, the interview ended. No goodbyes, no handshake, no wrap-up promo for the film, just a studio full of confused audience members and a stage that suddenly felt abandoned. No one knew yet, not the viewers, not the crew, not even Colbert, was that this was more than an awkward moment. This was the spark, the inciting incident, the flashpoint that would ignite an internet frenzy, and raise one very dangerous question. What happened backstage after the cameras stopped rolling? The cameras may have cut to black, but the real show was only just beginning. Backstage at the Ed Sullivan Theater, chaos erupted. Stage moved fast, ushering guests, whispering into headsets, clearing paths. Producers huddled in corners. Phones rang. The energy that had been electric moments ago now pulsed with panic. Timothée Chalamet had vanished into the hallways, mic still in hand, his team trailing behind him like shadows. No yelling, no tears, just cold fury and tightly clenched fists. According to one anonymous crew member, he didn't say a word for nearly 5 minutes. But his silence screamed, "What the hell just happened?" Someone whispered near the stage doors. Meanwhile, Colbert remained in his chair during the break, hands folded, staring at the floor, the smile long gone. For a man who lives and breathes live television, this wasn't just an awkward segment. It was a rupture, and he knew it. Inside the control room, a quiet battle began. Cut it, keep it, delay it, re-edit. One producer reportedly slammed her headset down after being told they'd just roll with it. The show's team had minutes to decide what version of reality would be broadcast. And in those minutes, the internet was already waking up. An audience member, seated near the third row, had recorded the final seconds before the cut. A shaky phone video, only 12 seconds long, showed Timothée standing, unhooking his mic, and walking out. No words, just silence and movement. They posted it with 3 words. He really left. Within the hour, it was viral. Reddit threads exploded. TikToks dissected the footage frame by frame. Twitter, or X as it's now called, trended globally. Chalamet walks Colbert confrontation, late-night meltdown theories, multiplied like wildfire. Some claimed Colbert broke a pre-interview agreement. Others insisted Timothée had something to hide and Colbert struck a nerve. Then came the unconfirmed reports from insiders. They were shouting after the show. Colbert slammed a door. Timothée's agent threatened to pull him from all further CBS promos. The network stayed silent, so did both camps. No tweets, no statements, no explanations, just the clip, the walk-off, and 1,000 conflicting narratives. But the most explosive detail came not from the media, but from a former Colbert staffer who posted anonymously on a private industry forum. They claimed that during the break, before Timothée left the building, there was a heated exchange between the two men off camera. The staffer wrote, "Greater than Timothée, told Colbert you crossed a line you knew was there. This wasn't journalism, this was personal. No recordings exist. No proof. Just the words." But those 12 words set fire to everything. Suddenly, this wasn't just a celebrity walk-off, it was a scandal with teeth. Was Colbert trying to expose something? Was there bad blood before the taping began? Was the interview a setup from the start? And deeper still, was Timothée cracking under the pressure of fame? Paparazzi photos surfaced the next morning of him leaving his hotel, hoodie up, expression unreadable, no smiles, no waves. And Colbert. He opened the next night's show without a single mention of what had happened. Not a joke, not a line, even a wink to the camera. It was as if none of it existed, but fans weren't buying the silence. In fact, it made everything worse. Edits to the episode confirmed suspicions. The segment was trimmed by 4 minutes. The walk-off never aired. A commercial break was added where none had been scheduled. They tried to erase it, but the internet doesn't forget. Clips kept spreading. Fan edits appeared, slow motion, dramatic music, voiceovers. One viral TikTok with over 5 million views framed the incident like a breakup scene in a movie. Timothée Chalamet walked away, and Colbert didn't stop him. And while the memes rolled in, something darker bubbled beneath. People weren't just entertained, they were taking sides. The fandom split down the middle. Some accused Colbert of exploiting his platform to trap young talent. Others said Timothée proved he couldn't handle real pressure, that he was just another overprotected Hollywood starlet cracking under scrutiny. And in the shadows, PR machines were spinning. One wanted to be the first to talk, because in this kind of war, the first statement is the one that defines the narrative. Every hour that passed without a response only tightened the suspense. What had started as an uncomfortable moment on a late-night show was now snowballing into a reputational crisis for both of them. And yet, the most haunting part wasn't what had been said, it was what hadn't. No apology, no confrontation, no closure, just silence, and millions of people leaning in to hear what would happen. Next, the climax didn't arrive with a bang, it came like a slow rolling earthquake, shaking the foundations of everything both men had built. 48 hours after the walk-off, CBS uploaded a heavily edited version of the interview to YouTube. Gone were the final 3 minutes, gone was the pointed question, gone was the moment. Timothée unhooked his mic, but the internet had already seen it. The edits didn't bury the truth, they spotlighted it, and then came the leak, a raw, uncut version of the interview segment, filmed by someone inside the control booth, surfaced anonymously on a file-sharing site. No watermarks, no censorship, just the raw feed, clean audio, full footage. In it, Colbert's expression shifts from amused host to something colder. His eyes narrow, his voice sharpens, and Timothée, visibly uncomfortable, mouths something off camera. The audio didn't pick it up, but expert lip readers online claimed he said, "Greater than you promised you wouldn't go there." That one sentence changed everything now. The narrative wasn't about a celebrity meltdown, it was about betrayal. That clip, less than 20 seconds, trended 1 in 15 countries. It played on loop across entertainment shows. News anchors debated journalistic ethics. Hollywood insiders called it a breach of trust. Others labeled it a calculated move, Colbert taking a swing at a rising star to generate headlines in a sagging ratings war. But Timothée stayed silent. Until the 3rd day. Then, without warning, a single Instagram story, no caption, just a black screen, and an audio clip. Timothée'sVoice.com, cold, unmistakably deliberate, said, "Greater than respect is not given in this industry, it's traded, earned, and sometimes it's revoked." 10 seconds. That's all, no tags, number, names, but everyone knew who it was for. The story vanished after 24 hours, but millions had already recorded it, screenshotted it, shared it like scripture. Colbert didn't respond. Not publicly, But 2 nights later, he opened his monologue with a line that was anything but innocent. "Greater than you know, I've been told some actors are so method, they stay offended even after the cameras stop rolling." The audience laughed, but not like they usually did. It was thinner, uneasy, because this wasn't late-night banter anymore. This was a war fought with subtweets, soundbites, and silence. And then came the unexpected blow. A journalist at The Hollywood Reporter released a bombshell piece. Inside sources, verified accounts, a full breakdown of what had allegedly happened behind the scenes. According to the report, Timothee's team had given CBS a list of off-limit topics, specifically anything involving his political affiliations or the real-life whistleblower. His new film was loosely based on Colbert, agreed to the terms in writing. Then, during the live interview, he broke that agreement not once, but twice. When Timothée confronted him during the break, Colbert allegedly responded, "Greater than you're a big boy now, handle it." If true, it painted the entire incident in a new light, that it wasn't a tantrum. It was a reaction to being cornered, ambushed, betrayed on live television. Public sentiment flipped overnight. Support flooded in. Fellow actors Zendaya, Ronan, even Leonardo DiCaprio liked and reposted cryptic quotes about trust and manipulation. Fans launched a petition demanding Colbert issue a public apology. Hashtags like Western with Themi replaced the old ones. But the damage was done. 2 reputations once untouchable were now cracked and exposed under a microscope. Colbert's ratings dipped. Timothée cancelled his next scheduled interviews. Warner Bros. Delayed his next press junket. No one was calling it a scandal anymore. Now they were calling it a turning point. And in Hollywood, turning points are dangerous. Because once the illusion breaks, once the audience sees behind the curtain, they don't always come back. This wasn't just the climax of a media feud. This was the moment. Everything shifted. The mask slipped. The stage lights burned a little too bright. And for once, everyone saw what was really going on beneath the surface. 2 men. 1 stage. And a line crossed in front of millions. Not just a career risk. A reputation war. The kind of moment that doesn't fade. It echoes. The stage was empty. The cameras stopped rolling, but the fallout had only begun. In the days that followed, Hollywood turned into a battlefield of whispers. Talent agencies, publicists, studio executives, all watching closely, all asking the same question. Asterisk, who would speak first, and who would fall hardest? Seeing Timothée Chalamet retreated from the spotlight. No press appearances. No statements. No social media posts. Just absence, strategic, deafening absence. Meanwhile, Colbert tried to continue business as usual. The Late Show aired 3 consecutive episodes without celebrity guests. A move the network called a scheduling coincidence. But no, one was buying that behind the scenes. Sources described the mood at CBS as tense, cautious, and under review. Then came the media divide. Variety called the incident a generational collision. TMZ labeled it Hollywood ego meets political pressure. Rolling Stone went further, publishing a full editorial titled, the day late night stopped. Being safe, the story had become bigger than Timothée and Colbert. It was about trust, boundaries, the shifting balance of power between the old guard of late-night television and the new class of digital-era celebrities who no longer play by the same rules. For decades, late-night hosts were gatekeepers, charming, quick-witted arbiters of cool. But that image was fracturing, and Colbert, once hailed for his intelligence and integrity, now stood at the center of a moral debate. Was he doing his job, or crossing the line? And then finally came the statements Colbert's team issued. The first one, buried late at night in a 3-paragraph press release. It read, "We regret any misunderstanding that may have occurred during last week's broadcast. The Late Show values its guests, their work, and the trust they place in our platform." There was no direct apology, no acknowledgement of the broken agreement, just carefully chosen words that said very little. Hours later, Timothée's publicist responded, not with a press release, but with a single headline posted to his Instagram. "When trust is treated as a punchline, don't expect a curtain call." It was brutal, poetic, final within minutes. It was trending. A week after the incident, the ripple effects were impossible to ignore. Chalamet pulled out of an upcoming SNL appearance. Warner Bros. Quietly shifted his film's premiere date. Next few monologues were met with polite applause, no longer the raucous approval he was used to, and in the background, something even more telling happened. A growing number of celebrities' high-profile names began requesting live delay clauses before agreeing to appear on late-night programs. Translation: They wanted insurance, control, protection, because the industry had been reminded of something brutal. Trust on camera is a fragile, dangerous thing, and when it shatters, the pieces cut deep. For fans, the fallout was personal. Too many. Timothée was more than a movie star. He was a symbol of vulnerability, intelligence, and youth. And to watch him walk off that stage felt like watching someone get ambushed in real time without ever raising his voice to others. It was a warning that fame is a chess game, that every smile has a script, that even in a room full of applause, someone's always losing. And what about Colbert? The legacy he spent decades building now had a crack running through it. Maybe not enough to break it, but enough to make people look closer. This wasn't cancellation, this wasn't career-ending, it was something more haunting. Asterisk, asterisk, doubt, asterisk, asterisk, and in an industry built on illusion, doubt is the one thing you can't afford. The interview may have ended, but the aftermath was only beginning. Beyond the viral clips, the trending hashtags, and the deafening silence from both camps, lies a deeper question. What really happened that night wasn't just about one interview gone wrong, it was about a shift, a tectonic shift in how power moves between the media, celebrity, and the audience watching from the dark. Because this wasn't just a fight between two public figures, this was a collision between two eras. Stephen Colbert represents an institution, the golden age of late night, where hosts were the arbiters of culture, the gatekeepers of approval. Celebrities came to be seen, heard, humanized, but always on the host's terms, and for a long time, that worked. But Timothée Chalamet, he's not playing by those rules. He's not a trained puppet of the studio system. He's a product of the digital age where image is currency, and every word, every gesture, is dissected in real time. He doesn't need Colbert's platform, he has his own. He doesn't rely on network approval. He cultivates narrative directly with his audience. And in that moment, on that stage, those two worlds clashed out hard. The late-night model is built on power imbalance. Hosts ask, guests endure, audiences laugh. But in a world where celebrities now have more control over their brand than the networks hosting them, what happens when they say no? What happens when the actor becomes the interviewer, when the guest walks off the stage and takes the spotlight with them? The implications go far beyond one awkward exchange. They touch the entire entertainment ecosystem. Studios watched what happened and saw a risk. Publicists scrambled to rewrite talking points. Agents started renegotiating terms with a new clause in mind: protection from ambush. And fans saw something that cut deeper than any scandal. They saw truth. They saw what it looks like when the mask slips, when control falters, when the machine shows its gears. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't staged. And that's why it spread like wildfire, because people are tired of curated perfection. They're drawn to breakdowns, to discomfort, to rupture, not because they're cruel, but because it's real. This moment revealed something raw in both men. Colbert, the polished satirist, exposed as someone who might push too far for a punchline. Timothée, the poised prodigy, revealed as someone who will walk away rather than play the game. And both of them lost something that night. Colbert lost the invincibility that comes with being the one behind the desk. Timothée lost the illusion that charm and control could protect him from being cornered. But there's something more dangerous under the surface, something about the way the audience responded. The division wasn't just about two celebrities, it was generational. Older viewers defended Colbert, calling him sharp, brave, unwilling to coddle. Younger viewers rallied around Timothée, praising his boundaries, his silence, his refusal to be made into a spectacle. That it wasn't just about right or wrong, it was about what we expect from our icons, and who we trust to ask the questions. In the aftermath, think pieces began pouring in. Should late night adapt? Should celebrities toughen up? Is vulnerability a weapon, or a weakness? One column in the New Yorker said it best: greater than we're not watching interviews anymore. We're watching negotiations, battles for narrative control in real time. That's what this really was. Not an argument, not a meltdown. A negotiation that fell apart on live television, and when negotiations fail, the story writes itself. Every producer, every publicist, every actor preparing for a promo tour took notes, because the rules have changed. One wrong question, one unspoken boundary crossed, and the entire illusion crumbles. And yet, for all the fallout, all the damage, some see this as a necessary reckoning, a breaking of the old model, a rebalancing of power. Maybe celebrities should have more control. Maybe hosts should be held accountable. Maybe trust, real, mutual trust, has to be earned, not assumed. And maybe, just maybe, this moment wasn't the end of something. maybe it was the beginning, a new blueprint for fame, for media, for how we decide who gets to speak and who walks away. Because when you strip away the cameras, the scripts, the audience, all that's left is to people. And a question, asterisk, asterisk, who owns the moment, asterisk, asterisk, and now, more than ever, the answer is complicated. It began with a smirk, a question, a pause, and it ended with silence, no apology, no reconciliation, just an empty chair, a broken rhythm, and a moment that slipped out of anyone's control. What happened between Timothée Chalamet and Stephen Colbert will be debated for years, replayed, reanalyzed, but in the end, the details almost don't matter. What matters is what it revealed. We saw two men both at the height of their influence collide, under the weight of unspoken boundaries. We saw a generation draw a line in the sand, and we saw what happens when legacy meets resistance. Live on stage. Some say Timothée was right to walk away. Some say Colbert was right to ask the question. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the real story isn't about who was right, but who was listening, the audience, the industry, the us, because, in that moment, we all saw something we weren't supposed to see. The illusion cracked, the script fell apart, and behind it all was something raw, human, real. To men, two truths, and a silence louder than anything either of them could have said. In the weeks since, time has marched on, new interviews, new headlines, new scandals, but this one still lingers because it wasn't just about fame, or press tours, or a movie. It was about control, consent, and what happens when one person decides, enough. And maybe that's the most powerful part. But Timothée didn't yell, didn't fight, didn't play the game. He stood up, unclipped his mic, and walked off the stage, not as a performer, not as a brand, but as a person. And in doing so, he gave us something more unforgettable than any viral moment. He gave us a choice. To question how we consume, to ask what we expect, and to decide what kind of stories we want to believe. So now we ask you, was this a breakdown, or was it a breakthrough? Let us know what you think, because this story, it isn't over, not yet.